David Tshabalala is one of the most sought-after graphic designers and illustrators in South Africa. But some may not know that he's actually also the man behind the moniker Slaying Goliath, whose digital content has garnered a massive following on social media. And I'm very excited that he now joins us on the line via Skype from Johannesburg. David, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Now, we know the story of David Tshabalala. I almost said David Goliath, which I'm sure has happened before. Born in Harrismith. It's not a small town, but it certainly isn't New York. Ended up in Johannesburg. And you now co-own a branding and design company called Sukechi. So that's the story that everybody knows about David Goliath. But where did we find the birthing of Slaying Goliath?
Slaying Goliath, I think I was born as David, and Slaying Goliath as a moniker made sense. It's the biblical reference. It's the biblical reference to the story of David and Goliath. I think it just speaks to overcoming any obstacle in front of you. And I think as a designer coming from Harrismith in the Free State, it's just such a great story of making it in Joburg and just Gauteng in general. So I think Slaying Goliath just represents everyone who's sort of overcoming the obstacles. And I think it just made sense with my name as David, yeah.
Now, we've gotten to a point where, I know I certainly have gotten to a point where I see one of your pieces and I perhaps don't see the little fine print of your name on it, and I can immediately say, that's Slaying Goliath. Was that part of your plan for your life's work, that you wanted to get to a point that you have your own style that stands out like so many other famous artists and designers across the world?
I think every artist has a certain identity, and I think it's important to sort of have your place in the world and have an identity and have a craft. I think graphic design is all about identity and separating yourself from the next person. Whether you're a musician, whether you're a singer, an actress, an actor, there's a certain style that your audience sort of understands and loves. So I think with me, it's taken me a few years, but I think eventually, once you find that thing and that sort of style that people can like resonate with, that's gold. Because you want someone who hasn't even met you to recognize your work, because then your work just gains traction and it just travels far.
Now, whenever there is a major talking point, both locally and indeed internationally, especially around social justice issues, you find that people very quickly will go to one of your pages, your social media pages, to see what is Slaying Goliath going to put out to really make a comment. And a lot of your pieces have almost become like these lightning rods, really talking to the heart of what the country, and especially young people on social media, are feeling and are perhaps struggling to communicate. Has that come with a certain amount of pressure to get it right every time?
It comes with a whole lot of pressure. I feel like a DJ, and people are just requesting songs all the time. I get so many messages and DMs about unfortunate events of people passing away, and can I do a piece? Or people will tell me, Youth Day is coming up, can you do something, please? I even get feedback from my audience telling me I could have done better, I could have done this, I could have done that, which is so important, I think, as a commentator, to have that engagement with your audience. I think it's gold. It comes with a lot of pressure, but also I enjoy it. And I think as a young black designer, it's my responsibility also to create work that just tells a story and that just reflects the times that we live in. And not just do pretty pictures, but also leave something behind that will sort of capture moments in time.
You speak of yourself now as a commentator. Do you think that we are perhaps entering into a golden age of artists finding their voices on new digital platforms and really being change agents in their own way through their art form?
Yes, I think so. And I think you could argue that you reach more people on social media and on digital than on TV. You could argue that point because everyone has their phones all the time. I know data is an issue in our country, but just the access to your audience on your mobile device, which has all the social media platforms, it's such a strong, powerful tool. Change can start from your mobile device. Protests and to get the attention of government on Twitter, etc. It can start from your mobile device. And we all have the power to sort of just have our say. So you don't need to be Slaying Goliath and Illustrate to have an opinion or share what's happening. You just have your voice, which is like social media. I think I've just chosen a platform that is more entertaining and engaging that I enjoy as well. Yeah.
So intellectual property, of course, is a big thing, especially when you look at how vast social media can be. I've heard a story of when one of your famous pieces around the death of Winnie Mandela really went viral because it really struck a chord, and then somebody spotted your piece on a T-shirt at the funeral being worn by somebody, and you didn't know about it. Obviously, somebody was perhaps making a buck off your work. How do you come to terms with that your work spreads so fast and so wide that perhaps you can't hold on to all of those babies all at the same time?
I think it's testament to the power of social media. It's testament to the power of like digital. Anyone can save anything off Google, off the internet, and recreate it. Unfortunately, that's how it is. Ironically, I think the purpose of my work is for it to be reshareable and to reach a wider audience. I've never really thought that it can go in a physical space where people can reproduce it. Unfortunately, that's how it goes. But I think with the Mom Winnie piece, you almost wanted to reach that level. It was even on television and stuff. But apparently, with political parties and the regalia, anyone can create their own thing to sort of, it's freedom of expression, to sort of show their allegiance to the political party, or, yeah, it's a bit complicated, but I think your work at some point, whether you're a musician, it will be recreated for a different sort of platform for people to make money. I was quite upset about it, but it comes with the territory, and my intention was never to make money from it anyway. So it's stuff like that happens, unfortunately.
Well, that's all we have time for. I feel I could pick your brain for a few hours. So fascinating is the work that you're able to put out. Thank you so much for your time this morning. David Tshabalala, also known as Slaying Goliath. You can find his work on various social media platforms. The man from Harrismith who's made a big name for himself as a respected graphic designer. He's also the co-owner of a branding and design company called Sukechi. We thank him for his time this morning.
Thank you.